Welcome back everybody to Waffles RC. It is a good thing that I made 2 videos in one weekend because I got really sick and wasn't able to do anything, but you guys still got a video. So what are we doing today? That is finally going to get painted because it's nice enough out now where I can paint it. I just have to move the truck so that way it doesn't get green paint all over it. We are also going to be continuing on with the RTR. And speaking of the RTR, I just want to lead off with, when it comes to any of these RCs, there is no you're doing it wrong or you're doing it right. That is my opinion, and in my opinion, that's the truth, because you build these how you want them to be built. The correct way, if you really think about it, of upgrading an RTR is don't. Axial spent a lot of money developing this thing, and they got it down. A lot more money than I ever would doing upgrades to it. So realistically, if you want to do it right, don't do it. So I will leave it at that, because any of these RCs, you build them how you want them to be built. Mine in particular, I want them to perform well. And yes, some of the things that were said would help them perform a little bit better, but not for the stuff that I'm doing. And for example, that shouldn't work at all because it's all Amazon parts. That shouldn't work at all because it's too heavy, because I made the frame out of steel and it's got 120mm shocks. It's too top heavy, yada yada, and yet those are my 2 best performing RCs out of all of them. This shouldn't work at all because it's so heavy that it won't be able to even move itself, according to people. This I'm just doing completely wrong in general. But here's the other reality of this whole situation that's going on at Waffles RC. So when the RTR was bone stock, it did the rocks perfectly well. Had a few issues, but nothing that would make it not do it. It still did it. And it did it for the rocks just perfectly fine, stock as is. But then I went and tried to drive up steps, which are 5.5 inches tall. And they are straight, they're made of concrete. It's not really off-roading. So that's why it didn't do well on here. So based on that, the main thing to take away is you do you. Build it how you want. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. Just have fun. The point of these is to have fun. So enough of that. Let's get to the next step of upgrades that I have got for this thing. First and most important upgrade that I've already done is I added lights, because I want lights. Next thing we are going to do is what I mentioned in the last video, is one of these tires, or a couple of them, are actually torn, so they, weren't very good. So I got new tires. Going to slap these onto here, and then it'll all be done. Maybe I should try it like Kevin Talbot, and boom. Now, did that work? I have no idea. I'll find out and edit. Here are the old tires. And this is what I was talking about the tire being torn. So those are garbage. Well, that one's garbage. The rest of these are pretty okay, so I'll keep them as spare tires. With these tires, you can see lugs look like they have a direction. I always point it like an arrow, but you can do it however you want. But since I have a little bit of OCD, I want them all to match. So when you're mounting them, this tire right now basically looks like the arrows are facing forward. If I put this one over there, then it looks like it's facing backwards. So just a little tip. It's probably wrong, but there's a tip. Next, this is the most pathetic track bar I've ever seen in my life, especially considering all the other links. Look at all these. They're all nice and big, strong, aluminum, very good quality links. and then they go and put that little thing on there. So I'm going to make a new track bar for it because that just bothers me. Okay, got rid of this weak little thing. So that's gone. And you can't see it because, oh, there it is. So had to make a new track bar link, and forgot that these axles come with these track bar mounts, but I always take them off because when you run servo on axle steering, you're running a triangulated 4-link, not a track bar. So this goes away. Well, I found one, and I probably shouldn't be throwing these away anymore because of reasons like this. But that is done. So before I go and drive this thing, I do want to try one more thing, and that would be to change the programming, if it even needs it. I don't know. We'll find out. So in this particular one, it has Spectrum electronics. Luckily, I have a Spectrum programming card, which to you is upside down. Just hold your comments. I promise I do figure it out. So my hopes is that when I plug this in and turn it on, that I should be able to change some of the parameters and see if any of those will make this thing drive a little bit better. So now you won't really be able to see it very well, but in here, this is the smart receiver and also your speed controller for the motor. They do it all in one, which we'll get to that later on. But on the side here, it lists auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2, steering, all that stuff. There's also one that says program. So that is where, stop it. That port is where you plug in this contraption. So I have it plugged in. I got a battery, but the transmitter is turned off. So turn this on and your screen will come up. All right, well, thanks to YouTube, found out that the Spectrum card doesn't work on here. So all the people who've been telling me that Spectrum is just expensive hobby wing, you were correct. Anyhow, let's move on with our lives. So now we have the Hobby Wing program card, which does work. It shows you what item you're on and everything's listed on this thing. So you just read through what it is. There's more on the back. So basically this is just to go through and check or change any settings that you want to, which could be your cutoff voltage, your initial start force, your max forward force, max reverse force, brake force, initial brake force, drag brake rate, neutral range, start mode punch, PWM frequency, BEC voltage, freewheeling. So that's all the things that this can do. So I'm going to go through and change the things that I feel it needs to change. And to change it, you just hit item and then that'll go through the list. The value is which numbers are what on here. And remember, you may have to play with it yourself to figure out what works best for you, not for what everyone else says. So the one main thing that I want to change is the drag brake. It right now is only set to 70% according to this, and I want a little bit more drag brake. So I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. So I'm just turning it up to 90%. We'll see how that does. Worst come to worst, if it doesn't do what I want, I'll just go back through and change it again. The other thing that I wanted to check was the BEC voltage to see whether it was on 6 volt or on 7.4 volt. It is set to 7.4. The reason why I'm concerned about that is, like I've mentioned before, lights. Gotta make sure that your lights are correct for the voltage of the BEC of the vehicle that you are hooking them up to. So I wanted to check it, and it's set correctly. And I did that before plugging the lights in. So now that I've done all that, I will hit OK, and that should save everything. So now you turn it off, unplug your card, and move on with your day. So let's drive it, see how it does. Oh no, I rolled it. Alright, so just like last time, it's getting hung up on the diffs. So what I'm going to attempt to do is change the pinion angle and see if that helps. Brand new tires take a little bit to scrub in, and I'm sure someone's going to tell me that I'm wrong about that as well, but that's fine. It's just my experience with, you know, the few RCs that I have, that brand new tires need a little time to scrub in and then they grip really well. But the main thing that I'm going to do to this, because it is really annoying me, power switch is right here underneath the body, where you have to pull all the body clips, and they hid them so it looks really good. It's also very annoying that once you do finally get this body on, which is a task in itself, if you forgot to turn it on, you have to go back through it all again. I'm going to find a new spot for that because it is highly, highly irritating. Now just imagine it's on fire. You need to be able to unplug it, turn it off. Dire emergency. Now you can turn it off. Unplug. Now the question is, can I move it? Because I don't think I can. Nope, can't move it. What do we do next? The other issue that I had with this particular one is that it is a brushed motor. Guess what we could do is switch it over to brushless. Let's give that a shot. So once you get all the scale point stuff off, you have access then to your motor. Now this one is a brushed motor with the ESC. When you go from brushed to brushless, you can't use a brushed ESC. Downfall of this particular one, and for a lot of them that are doing it nowadays, the receiver is built into this. So once you get rid of this, you no longer have your receiver for this. This is the 2-in-1. You guys have seen it many times. It is the expensive Hobby Wing, but this has an ESC built into it. So the main option that you have, or a few of the options that you have, is you can get another Spectrum receiver, which is quite costly. It was like $64 for this one. Granted, it's a 5-channel, not a 3. Could have gotten away with a 3, but I have plans, so you can do that. Or for a little bit more money, just a little bit, not much, for the Radio Link 7-channel plus 2 receivers. It's up to you and your budget what you want to do. For this particular one, I already bought this, so I'm going to try and utilize this controller or transmitter and just have to bind it up with this. Then it'll be able to work correctly. I'll put links to all this stuff down in the description below, so that way you can see the price points and then make the decision from there what you want to do. That's right. I am working on an axial. I shouldn't have a Traxxas battery in it. So you take your motor out. Has the motor plate right here with the pinion gear. I'm going to reuse all this stuff and just put it on to this. So has numbers of where the bolt is located, or you could take, you know, a pen and mark it, which is what I'll do because I won't remember the number. Put the pinion gear on, and it should just slip right back in here and go from there. So let's take all of this business out and start working on this one. there you are. It is now brushless, and it is all hooked up to the remote that it came with. So now what I need and want to do is reprogram this with the Spectrum card now. Also, you'll see the new receiver is right here. I have open auxiliary ports. And one cool thing, well, it's a cool thing and kind of a bad thing, is, so this has dig on it. You'd hit A and it would engage it. Then you have to hit A again to disengage it. One thing that I like about this now is just touch it, it just activates it, which is nice. That way you don't forget. So you just hold it while you want dig and let go of it when you don't. So that's nice. Now, if you want adjustability on that to change it, you can do that with a different transmitter, or you can upgrade to a different Spectrum transmitter like this one, which is that. So you can do that, and then you can play with all those settings if you want to. I wanted to keep the stock transmitter, so that's what I did. Here is the brushed ESC and transmitter. Since it's now brushless, it has the receiver, the different receiver right here. And I moved the power switch to under the front bumper, so I can actually turn it on and off without having to take 10 minutes to take the body off of this thing. And I'll actually strap the battery in. I'm just being lazy right now because I got to turn it off. So next, since we have this receiver on here, let's hook up lights to it. Okay, and here's the downfall of using the factory remote that came with it. This is a 3-channel. I put a 5-channel in it, but the channels are taken up already with everything that's on this. So steering, throttle, and then the drag brake. So hooking up the lights to a switch, like I was going to show, doesn't work because I kept the stock remote. Now, if I went to the DX5, that's a 5-channel, and I could hook it up to it. But for now, I'll just wire them up to be on all the time. Doesn't bother me one bit. So even though this is a 5-channel and this is a 3-channel, when I hook up jumpers basically to auxiliary 2 and auxiliary 3, as soon as I turn it on, the lights will all turn on. So they'll be on all the time. And then when I turn it off, they turn off. So if I want that to work correctly, I have to bind up a different remote, and I don't feel like doing that right now. So tuck all this in, spend 10 minutes putting this freaking body on, and go play with it, because that's what it is. I'll speed this up so you see how long it takes. Oh, that was annoying. Go play with it. So here we are in the backyard with my weeds because it's winter time. So the biggest thing that I notice personally between brushed and brushless is how smooth it is. So the brushless, you can be incredibly smooth and slow, which when crawling, sometimes you want slow. See, I couldn't do that with the brushed. Nice and slow. I also turned up the drag brake so that it holds itself, where in the other one, it would have just rolled right down this. couldn't be that slow with the brushless. But once again, personal opinion. I'm sure someone will tell me otherwise. I did something wrong. But I'm here to have fun. These new tires are really good. Look how horrible it's doing because of too much flex. Yep. All that flex is really making this thing not perform as well as it could. See how horrible it's performing?
You better not be in that shot.
You're not in the shot. That audio clip is staying in though. I was just letting the people see like how bad it performs now because of all the flex. See, look at it. Look at how bad it does.
Terrible.
It can't do anything because it's got too much flex.
Awful. You should really build these things better.
I really should. I should also learn how to drive. That sometimes helps.
That's for the next video.
Alright guys, well, that's it for the RTR upgrade build. It's pretty good. I like how it handles. I like how it drives. It's much smoother with the brushless in there. I may switch it over so I can switch the lights on and off. Or some of the light switch kits actually come with a manual switch. So if you want to keep the factory remote, you wire it up just how I did into a 5-channel receiver or anywhere where it's getting power. And then you put a switch somewhere and switch them on and off. And that's what I will do. But I'm sure everybody here is bored of me upgrading an RTR. Now, one person did bring it up and it's very true. Instead of buying an RTR and then upgrading it, like I just did, and what I've been completely against, is you can buy the frame rails on Amazon, you can buy the motor on Amazon or eBay, whichever. You can buy almost all of this stuff from websites and put it all together so you're not spending the money on an RTR and then upgrading it like I've always spoke against. Like I said, it was an opportunity and my Christmas present to myself. I wanted this. And then I accidentally turned it on because I moved the power switch. So I've wanted this one. So I took the opportunity to show people what you can do to get them to perform better. Now, this wasn't very uber scientific on this one. It was just me putting more parts on because I wanted to. But it does very well. I'm very happy with it. So the next thing on the list is going to be the next build. I'm very excited for it. Hope you guys will be too. I know this and the next one aren't like heavy fabrication builds, and heavy fabrication builds are expensive and they take a lot of time, but it's mainly the price. Like that semi, I'm gonna go over price with the semi once I have a few more parts coming in for it. That stuff costs quite a bit. So if you would like to contribute so that I can keep building stuff like that, it would be great if you went on to Etsy to Waffles RC merch right here. I'll also put a link down in the description. It'd be great if you would buy some merch. You can get a hat, a beanie, I did a shirt, some coffee mugs. You know, I kept the price point pretty low, so that way it's not unjustifiable for a t-shirt or a hat or a coffee mug. So the price points are pretty affordable in my opinion, but any contribution would be greatly appreciated. All the proceeds from that go into more RCs so that I can keep making content. So yeah, thank you for liking, thank you for subscribing, and we will see you on the next one when we build the ultimate RC on a budget.